Welcome everyone to this special session of the Human Relations Commission of the City of Palo Alto. Tonight, we are undertaking a serious work in that we are opening up a public forum along with an expert panel of opinion to talk about police reform, specifically a can't wait.
My family has owned property in this city for almost 100 years, but has always felt that Palo Alto Police treat us like invaders that don't belong. These types of incidents became the status quo to myself, my family, and my friends. We have been unfairly questioned as to where we are going, who we are going to see, all without being given a reason why we were pulled over. When reasons are provided, they consist of you fit the description or the light is out above your license plate, something that most people don't even know you can get pulled over for. Another male officer pulled me over and held me for over an hour while he searched my car, looking for marijuana that he said he smelled. He threw my stuff on the ground. He broke my niece's car seat when he held it above his head and dropped it to the pavement. He told me it was a good thing that I don't have my own kids and hopes that I never do. He frisked me inappropriately, running his hands up and down and between my legs. The second male officer asked him to stop and told him he needed to call a female officer. He told him to be quiet. I asked if I could get my jacket. He said that if I was cold, I could sit handcuffed in the back of his car. The other cop asked him if he could get me my jacket, and he said no. The second officer apologized to me several times, but did nothing to stop this. When talking with my white friends about these incidents, they are blown away, and of course, have no stories like this to share.
So we had one of the speakers, Theresa Brown, who talked about some of the stories. Are those logged somewhere, or is it possible to look at some of the body cam footage to corroborate some of this? Or I guess for me, I was really moved by that story, and I'm kind of curious to know, like, if some of that is true. It does sound a little bit disturbing to me.
So we have the ability to go back if we have specific dates and times to look at incidents to see if they were captured. And I'm more than willing to do that. All I need are details.
I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Project Comport, but there's a bunch of similar projects around the country where what they do is they give data on, it's basically an open data, not just on police action, but it's actually data on complaints, like the one from Theresa Brown, where what month it happened, what allegation on which officer, and the demographics of those turning into complaints. So I guess I don't know if you guys are also familiar with that, the Project Comport, but it also seems very interesting because it's trying to open the data for complaints like what we heard from Theresa Brown earlier. So I don't know if you guys could speak about that.
The City of Palo Alto does have both internal as well as external processes for handling issues that are raised, either formal complaints or even informal complaints, and those are reported regularly to the City Council.
Black, so you guys do have that data. It's bringing that data to us in the next 2 weeks, not the next whatever. With Mountain View, they just released their statistics, and it said that Black residents, I think, are 5 times more likely to get arrested or get pulled over than anyone else in their city, and 11.2 times more likely to get arrested.
In Sunnyvale, they actually have the idea of a joint fire and police department, where it kind of maybe gets away from the Stanford prison experiment type of issue, where someone's serving as an enforcer of the law, but also someone that's trying to help people. And it will give the officers kind of multiple perspectives versus just a guy carrying a gun type of situation.
It makes some sense to me as a cost-saving measure, but you're also asking police officers to potentially do more, which is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to, I think, what folks are calling for. And the last thing you want is for folks to be living in fear of folks. If there's a fire, like, you don't want someone armed coming and potentially escalating a situation. So that would be another.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, does a one size fits all the different cities, the different type of demographics? And so can you help me understand that?
One thing you have to look at for cities is, so one, the size of the city, and then also the breakdown of what the calls are coming in for. So when it comes to making changes, it requires knowing what the data is of the types of calls that are coming in, the type of responses that are coming from it, and be able to analyze that to understand what programs should be getting funding to help combat these issues. Because if you have issues with domestic violence in a city, you have to bring programs in there and be talking about this and addressing those issues. But if you have issues specifically of beatings towards Black and brown people, you look at programs and be helping along those lines, and you kind of have to tailor it based on that. Palo Alto, Los Altos, Mountain View. These are cities with a huge, Sunnyvale as well, with huge financial power, although they might not be population-wise enormous. They have huge power to do a lot when it comes to putting money towards these programs.
The overwhelming majority agree that funding needs to be invested in nonprofits and organizations, right, within the community. And so I think advocating and arguing for that reality, and arguing for the reality that many people in the community from their own experiences, but also from the data, understand that 8 Can't Wait is not enough, and that money actually needs to be invested within communities. And one way to do that, one very simple way to do that, is to look at the police budget.
I do think, though, that getting the police out of certain lines of work that other people or other agencies could do better and less violently does make sense. And I agree that the Cahoots program is a model that's worth examining. It'd be perfectly reasonable for you to say, we've looked at it, we think that we should be doing everything that 8 Can't Wait includes, but we think that we shouldn't, we should not treat that as anything but a very first step. And in particular, there's a significant piece of the reform agenda that 8 Can't Wait doesn't address, which is the overall footprint of policing, which we think needs to be rethought and probably shrunk in important ways.
2 parts. It will be, this is 8 Can't Wait, this is where we are, this is what the expert said, this is what, and it's in a grid format. Then we will also have a addendum appendix, a addition where things like what Professor Clair spoke about and Professor Skalansky and Anand spoke about will be in that, and saying, City Council, please look at these things, because these are things in our investigation, 8 Can't Wait, that have come to the surface. I know that the council has a couple of different ad hoc committees that are focusing on different elements, and we've done a lot of listening and got a lot of good expert advice. So we would not want to lose that momentum and not give it to council in that packet.